What is up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. And the first thing I want to do is thank everybody. We got up and over 1,000 subscribers over the weekend. And
congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, man. I am absolutely tickled about that.
Folks, oh, you got to be over the moon.
I am. It's man, that's a tough thing to do, man. In the fishing market, there are so many fishing channels. It is so saturated, and it was really, really tough to get there.
I will tell you, yours is the only fishing channel I will watch.
Well, it's partially, by the way, folks, this is John from RoadReality. He has a motorcycle vlog. And does amazing work while on the bike. Love him to death. John and I met because we had a mutual major audio problem as certain firmware versions came up for cameras.
That bad boy right there, bud.
Yeah. While we're using this piece of audio hardware right here, yeah, nightmare. Hey, by the way, have you seen that come back?
No.
I have.
I have not experienced the audio issue since I stopped changing video modes while the camera was on.
Okay. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, John and I, boy, we went through. John did a couple of videos about this stuff, trying to get down to the bottom of the audio issues that we were having. And
I don't think you have me on. I don't see me.
Oh, crap.
I'm in a little
Yeah, my
window.
bad. Yeah, there we go.
I'm looking at this screen here, and I've got both of us. And then, hey, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Up. I'm gonna get big. Hey, I'm big. Look at that.
And by the way, thank you, Valerie, for telling me that we're looking and sounding good. The last one, and John, I know you were in the chat on my last live stream, and the audio was just chipping in and out like
it was
crazy. Bad. And it's really, really weird because Mark and I finished that one up, and I'm like, holy crap, that's got like 90 views. And it's like, right as we finished up. But yeah, we ended up figuring out, oh, this is the same 10 people just refreshing to see if the audio fixes.
Oh, and audio is the bane of existence, isn't it?
It really, really is. And it's it can ruin videos. You can have the best video in the world, but if your audio sucks, people will click away from that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Audio is number one. Content is number two. Video is number three.
You got it. You got it.
And let's say hello to Hidden Hollow Loft as well. What's happening?
Excellent. What's happening, Hidden Hollow? Good to see you, buddy. So we met while we were working through these audio issues, and it seemed like we got them fully resolved. And by the way, John, I think I finally got to the bottom of it. If you change any setting while you have a microphone plugged into a media mod,
yeah,
it will do that. It will quit the audio from your external microphone.
Any setting.
Any setting. Any setting. If you try to go to, and this is still an issue. This is still an issue. They haven't fixed it.
What firmware are you running now?
Oh God, I don't.
Are you still on 1.40 or did you go up to 1.50?
I think I went to 1.5, and there's a 1.6, and I believe there's a 1.6 something else. I happen to have it on my. Oh, that's right. I renamed it because. Yeah, I think I'm on 1.6, but yeah, it's the same thing. That will happen.
I stopped after 1.40. I stopped after 1.40. I tried 1.50, and it created more problems than solutions. So I said, to hell with it. I'm just going to keep this camera on 1.40. And look, I went on a 4-day, 1,000-mile motorcycle trip, and I was like, the goal of the trip is to just not die. And I made it back. I had 146 clips, and only twice did a camera screw up. And I think it was the Hero 9, which I have here, and I mount this to my handlebars aimed at me. And
right.
It didn't record twice. So I had to turn it off, turn it back on, record a short clip so I'd have matching clips. And when I got home, I had one day, had one missing clip. I found it within 20 minutes and kept trucking. It didn't actually hurt anything in the recording.
Excellent.
But I got perfect audio from everything else.
No kidding.
I was like, yeah, if I don't have to touch it, I'm not going to. And to your point about changing settings, we were talking off camera before we started here. My cameras, the 9 and 10, both have the max lens mod. I never touch them. I use the Sony ZV-1 for my off-bike stuff.
Right.
And then I use the 8 here as a webcam, or I'll hang it off the side of my bike. And then the 10 goes on the helmet, the 9 goes on the handlebars, and that's it. Like, they all have their dedicated purpose, and I don't mess around with it.
Right.
And hey, Motor Ramblings is here. It's my buddy Patrick.
Right. Yeah. I see that. And yeah, Total Mayhem, Motor Ramblings. Nice. Thanks for joining, guys.
Patrick's a motor vlogger out of North Kakalaki.
North Kakalaki, where's that? It's fun to say.
It's north of South Kakalaki, which is north of Georgia, which is north of Florida, which is south of West by God, Virginia. Gotcha. Come on, you got to have all the slang for all the states, right?
Yeah, you got to. but I will say that North Kakalaki is a lot of fun to say.
It drives my wife nuts. I tell my wife she's from Pennsylvania, and she just goes absolutely ballistic.
Beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, what I found is that, and one of the things that we basically do the same thing, just kind of on a different kind of bike. Mine doesn't get as much airflow, so I can't reliably shoot in 2.7K or 4K with the GoPro 10, 11 in the middle of the summer. When
they overheat on you.
Oh yeah, they overheat like crazy, especially the way that I use them. The way that I use them, I've always got the cameras in hindsight mode.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that is, right?
Yep. I've never used it, but I should.
Right. Well, I mean, you wouldn't really have a need for it unless you were expecting something unexpected to happen.
I'm on a motorcycle. Unexpected things are always happening.
That's absolutely true. But it keeps the cameras rolling the entire time that you're going.
So it just eats your battery, right?
Well, I don't have a problem with batteries on the kayak. The kayaks are fully powered. I've got USB power for both cameras at all times. Power isn't an issue. The camera's running is. So if I'm going at 2.7K or 4K, yeah, they overheat. If it gets hot or sunny.
Right.
So there are a lot of times where I have to switch to 1080p, because actually they're getting a lot better. The 9 was awful heat wise. The 10 a lot better. That thing, I can run that thing all day in 1080p as long as I give it a little downtime. I can run those things all day in 1080p in hindsight, 30-second mode. And that way, with the fishing stuff, you pretty much get every cast, every hook set. It's an absolute beautiful thing. And
that's a lot of footage. That is a lot of footage to have to go through, though.
It is. Well, no, it's not, because in the hindsight mode, it shunts everything but.
That's right.
But the 30-second thing.
That's right. It keeps the 30-second rolling shutter. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it just keeps that. So it actually it keeps your files fairly contained. If I went out. Well, I used to do this all the time, and it's funny, but the file sizes, with every GoPro that comes out, the file sizes get bigger every time because they're
collecting more data.
Yeah, their tech is getting better. Massive, not the frame rate, but the actual data capture rate. Yeah, the bit rate has been improving like crazy. So, like I used to do, I used to roll with a 6 in the front and a 5 in the back, right? And I do that all day long, and that would be 1/4 of a terabyte every freaking time, right?
That's rough.
Now. And this is funny. I went out, right before I did that thing with my foot. I went out for a day, and it was a long trip, man. It was 7.5 miles of river, which is a lot. And I still collected out of the 2 cameras. It was almost 1/4 of a terabyte, and that's with hindsight. I mean, it was a really good fishing day. So that makes a difference. But you also forget to turn it off and whatnot, and then you end up with, 4 gig file after 4 gig file, and you can just get rid of those. But
hey, you want one that'll melt your noggin?
Sure.
I take my GoPro Max out, and GoPro broke their player app on my computer. It no longer exports in H.264. I have to use Cineform or something. And when I export that at the 5.6 resolution, 6.5 minute file, it's 42 gigabytes. The bit rate was like 850,000 kilobits per second.
Are you able to edit that?
Yeah.
Oh, so you got a pretty sharp computer then.
It's 3 years old now. It's an older one. It's an older code, sir, but it checks out. It's a Star Wars reference for anybody paying attention. But yeah, I can play back in a 1080 timeline in Resolve with no issues. If I go to speed up the footage, or when I play through my final 4K timeline before render, then it gets choppy because it's got to suck so much data off the solid state drive that it just can't keep up.
Valerie, if you put the @ before whatever the name is, whatever the handle is, you can reply directly to chats.
And as they're typing, after you do the @ YouTube will auto-populate.
Right. Hey, you put in a couple of characters. Like if I put in @VA, here, I'll do it right now. Here, watch this.
I'm looking at the screen behind me. I can actually read the sign behind me. That's hilarious.
Actually, I can't here. I can't within the software anyway. No, you can definitely do it on YouTube.
I had the YouTube stream over there. I can see my sign.
Right.
That's awesome. This is a lot clearer. I'm used to StreamYard.
Yeah. This is pretty cool because the free version, even though it's I don't know why it's doing the black bar thing there. Is it showing up?
Because you have your banner.
Oh no, that's just in the software. I've got a laptop running over here, showing what we're doing. But yeah, their logo thing. At any rate, what I was gonna say is this actually streams at 1080p free.
Wow, that's better than StreamYard.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, especially for what we're doing specifically tonight, because we're going to be looking at cameras. But before we do that, we have to open things up. And hold on, hit the cancel there. I haven't done this in a little while. There's the stop video share. Well, I just haven't used this. I think I've used this software twice in about 6 months. So anyway, let's do a couple of stupid videos to start out. Just little warm-ups here. This is one of my favorites ever that's ever hit YouTube. This horse is hungry. Let's check it out. And that's the whole thing. Yeah, that horse.
He's like, nope, dumping you off. I'm getting the food.
Here, let me do it this way. Just look at the different angles. Yeah, that horse just said, nope, you're out of here.
That's a bruised hip.
Right in the water trough. Isn't that beautiful?
It's a wonderful thing. That's just hilarious.
Okay, hold on. Oh, man. Jeez, keep doing this. Hold on. Jeez. Have to remember to. All right, do that. All right. Next one. You don't you don't mind a little cursing, do you, sir?
Nope.
Yeah, and we're deep enough into this stream that this one's gonna work pretty well. If I can get to it. All right. So here's another thing, folks. There is another channel coming out of this family here, and it's going to be called Fast Food Felons. And it's basically Karen videos in fast food restaurants and whatnot. Okay. So this is going to be one of my openers for sure. This guy really wants his chicken.
So I'm gonna tell the owner you're fucking losing money because we want to make a big order of food. Give me the fucking chicken or I'm gonna cause a scene. Get your owner here.
Cause a scene? You're recording.
You're gonna lose money and get fired. We ordered food and you wanna refuse it.
Look at you. You're telling me you're not being rude?
No, we weren't. Fuck you! Give me my chicken! I came 30 miles to get a fucking chicken!
Fuck your chicken.
Kiss my ass and call your fucking owner, bitch!
Can you imagine walking into a fast food restaurant, talking to the people like this, and then expecting to get decent food?
No. You know, there's two people you don't mess with, and one of them's the people that's handling your food, and I forget the other one.
Right. Well, I mean, there's also cops. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with the cops either.
Right. All right, let's get this guy rolling because it gets even better.
You like Google reviews? I'll come here right now, motherfucker!
Come on, bro. You a wild.
You're getting fired! Give me my chicken! I drove 30 miles to get my fucking chicken!
Fucking crazy white people, bro.
Nah, you just brown as fuck. That's why you're working in McDonald's, bitch, because your IQ doesn't let you do shit except working.
Give my fucking chicken! I came here to eat! 30 miles!
Nothing but you just being a bad.
Give my fucking food!
Wow.
Yeah, so that's that guy.
Unhinged.
He is. There have been comments on that video that some people thought it was kind of staged, which is an entire possibility.
Anything on the internet can be staged.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine just being on the receiving end of that?
Okay, so all's fair in love and war. I used to work at a cigar shop, and I had this guy come in early on a Saturday or Sunday morning. I think it was a Saturday. We opened at 10, and he comes in there, and he says, he puts a cigar on the counter in front of me. He goes, "Yeah, can you cut that for me? The owner said I could try it before I buy it," which obviously was against policy. And I said, "Well, you know what? The owner didn't tell me that, so I can't follow that policy because that's not our normal." And he says, "Well, get the owner on the phone." He gets mad like this guy with the chicken, right? And so I get the owner on the phone. I get him on my phone, and the owner's like, "I've seen that guy before. Just you've described him. Okay, yep. Call the police and try to get him trespassed."
Oh boy.
So meanwhile, I've got the guy there. I show him my screen. It's the right POS screen, point of sale. And I'm like, "See the screen? It's not supposed to be like this. Here, you talk to the owner on my phone. I'll get this figured out. Just wait for a few seconds." And on the store phone, I'm calling the police.
Right.
I got him trespassed, but dude was about to lose his mind over a cigar. So, you know, I don't mess with the people that are fixing my food.
Oh no. Yeah, you never mess. You never even say anything nasty. Can you hurry up or anything like that? Don't ever do that.
So
people that are making your food.
If you watched my first VAM video from a week ago, I start out, I'm riding, and then I meet up with some people in like the middle of Virginia. I've never been there. I've never been anywhere near there. I enter the parking lot, revving the piss out of my Harley, which has stock exhaust. It's not that loud. But then I go into the McDonald's like 50 feet away, and somehow I charmed the waitress lady into giving me like a discount on my coffee and hash browns. And I don't know how I did it, but I must have treated her the exact opposite way, because she's like, "You're hilarious. I'm going to comp your coffee." And I'm like, "Well, thanks. You know, all right, I'll take that." And then the people I'm with, they look at me and they're like, "Who are you? How are you like this in real life? We've watched your videos. How can you keep that up?" And I was like, "I got 4 more days of this stuff. I need my coffee."
Well, and Moto Ramblings came up with a very, very fair point there. And I kind of feel that way too, because just because of this, I'm going to add this back in.
So I'm a
and bring it over here. Yeah, right here. Okay. Watch what this guy does.
Fuck, that's why you working in McDonald's, bitch, because your IQ doesn't let you do shit except working.
Give my fucking chicken! I came here to eat!
Yeah, who the hell does that? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you actually want to eat. Don't know.
No.
Don't know. Hey, just for what it's worth, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a Amber Alert that's been going nuts today.
In Alton, Maryland?
Yeah.
I got that one earlier.
I've seen it about 5 times today.
That's pretty far from us.
Yeah. The only reason I can think that's going on is that somebody may have seen them or something like that. You know, they're never really transparent about that, but that's a good thing because it keeps the douchebags on their
on their toes.
Well, off their toes, really. All right. Let's get to the cameras, man.
All right.
So there's a couple of things that I want to show. One of them has to do with yours, and I actually checked it for copyright claims because I wasn't sure where you got your music.
It's in the video description.
Okay. See. Good old descriptions.
Pro tip, when you use copyright-free music from the internet, usually you have to leave attribution.
Yes.
And if you like the track that's playing in somebody's video, look in their video description because they'll have a link unless it's Epidemic Sound or one of those paid services.
Right. I was a little bit concerned about that. One of my buddies that usually partners up, he couldn't do this tonight, and I was actually hoping that Mark could come up tonight because he has a lot of experience with Insta360. But he couldn't be here tonight. But at any rate, hold on. Let's get back on track here. Otherwise, this is goddamn. We're almost a half an hour deep already. All right, let's get here.
My lives usually go about 3 hours. So
right, really, seriously?
Oh yeah, jeez. Dude. I had one. The post Vam live went almost 3 hours. And for 2 hours and like 40 minutes, I had 10 people that I was juggling because StreamYard only lets you have 6 on screen at once. So I kept juggling people from the backstage or green room.
Oh, wow.
On screen. Oh yeah, my wrist was all worn out from moving the mouse.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
All right. So hold on, I gotta cut this thing out. Why is that still there?
I don't know.
Is that really still there?
It's your show.
It sure is. Why is that still there? No connection. Yeah, remove. All right, there we go. Jeez.
It dropped off.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird. I gotta watch 2 different computers for this because I do not trust this software yet. All right. So
kind of like you don't trust the GoPros yet, and we're on version 11.
Right. Soon to be 12.
Yeah, Motor Ramblings remembers that stream. He was on it. I kept kicking him back to the green room.
And that's part of it. So one of the things that we kind of want to present, and I am absolutely stoked that you're able to get audio like this on a bike. So I'm just going to throw this one out there.
Well, I try to crack open a beer.
Someday. Let's see.
Maybe next week. I'm going to get you.
Over and try to run me off the road. Yeah, he's looking down at his phone. Of course. You know what? I don't want to deal with this crap today. We're going down the side road, my friends. Yes. Let's get away from the nonsense. There's usually like nobody on this side road. Welcome back to the channel, my friends. I'm John. I'll be your host this afternoon as we dodge cars and try to talk about something. And that's something.
And this is the big thing. Your audio on a bike is freaking amazing, man.
Thank you. I have put many, many hours and a lot of effort into getting to that level of quality.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing with my channel, right?
Which again just hit 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. But yeah, it's kind of the same deal. And I'll get a little bit into this one.
Funny. That to you guys, I'm not a bullshitter. Okay, we got an issue here. We got a fish there.
So in this little part,
freaking size bluegill, I've got this loop in here. Undo your drag.
You hear that?
Yeah.
And do it this way as opposed to pulling it out with your bail undone. Close that bail.
Yeah, that stuff, that type of audio on a bike or a kayak, it's tough to achieve.
Yeah, you got the wind noise there, right?
Yeah, I don't think there was much that day. Let's look at the trees. Yeah.
Best way to get those out.
Yeah, they're pretty still.
Yeah, not much wind that day, but even on windy days, it's pretty good, and you'll hear a little bit out of the little wind muffs that I use. Hold on, give me a second. I'll show you exactly what I use. Got everything tangled up here. But
as well it should be.
This right here, this is a $15 Movo lav mic under a dead cat. That's it. That's all I use. I've got it on a audio recorder there for what I do at home. I've got another one on a chesty system here.
Yeah, I see that.
They just work, man, and they work really, really well. The entire audio spectrum is there. I mean, it's good stuff. Now, one of the issues that I've always had with DJI, which is part of what we're going to be talking about tonight, is that the only audio input that you have for them is USB.
Right. They designed it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. They just
work with their own.
Exactly. Right. And it does work with other stuff. Now, the release of the new DJI, I believe it came out. Shoot, I think it was last Thursday. It was actually last Wednesday. It was the 2nd of August that the camera came out, and they haven't changed that. They have no other method. Now, one of the things that I would like to see out of an action camera, so to speak, like we use, would be some kind of Bluetooth interface,
which GoPro used to have,
but not with microphones. Did it?
They did.
It worked with microphones.
You could get a Pack Talk, I think it was called, and it worked with like a Sena or a Cardo communicator. It was a wireless Bluetooth microphone setup. But they ditched it after the Hero 4, I think.
Huh. Interesting. God, I keep having to change scenes. There we go. So at any rate, one of the things that I noticed, I think, their announcement leaked out like, it wasn't a leak. They intended it to happen like a couple days before the new camera came out. And it became glaringly apparent immediately that they shipped these things out to all the big camera reviewer guys a month ahead of time. They were all saying, I've been using this for a month, blah, blah. But yeah, and GoPro absolutely does that. Some of the best stuff probably came out of Danny Black. Are you familiar with him?
No. I've watched like David Manning and Matty Hapoya and Peter McKinnon.
Okay. And have you seen any of their reviews on it?
I glanced at them. I think I saw David Manning's, and I have the other ones queued up. I haven't had a lot of time to watch.
Right.
But I saw David Manning's, and he was just gushing over it.
Yeah, I know. And that's kind of one of the interesting things. Everybody that they sent the camera to a month ahead of time are basically, for lack of a better term, gargling DJI's balls right now.
I was wondering where you're going at. That's hilarious.
I'm not kidding.
Well, you have to give them a grain of salt with this, because they've been dealing with all of the overheating and problematic firmware that GoPro's been shoving out for the last 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Hero 8 that I'm using here is just about the most reliable camera that they've put out in the last 4 generations.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I like the 10.
Okay, so I'll give you that. The 10, if you do the workarounds and you can get around the issues, works great. But like my 9, which is not even hooked to a media mod.
Oh, the 9 was.
It will randomly disconnect from the remote.
Oh yeah, the 9. Yeah, the 9 was freaking awful. And imagine, right? Like for my purposes, trying to run a 9 via the remote with it freaking disconnecting all the time. Dude,
it might have fallen off accidentally into the river.
I'm out of the I'm in a river with flow and actually have to stop fishing to dick around with the remote. Yeah.
Okay.
That thing absolutely sucked. The 9 was terrible.
So to pull a Seinfeld reference, I'm going to be a topper. Now imagine you're rolling down the highway at 75 miles an hour and you realize your Hero 9 has disconnected and you have to reboot the 9, the 10, and the remote while you're doing 75 mile an hour down the highway on a motorcycle.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not easy. It takes a lot of muscle memory.
It's the same damn thing, man. It really, you have to pull over. Yeah,
no,
you have to.
I don't. Dude,
no,
I was in the middle of a convoy. There's 7 bikes, and we're rolling along. And I'm like, all right, let me get my, no, there was not 7 bikes. It was 33 because I was in the middle of the big ride and I realized it wasn't recording. So I like had to turn everything off and on. And luckily it wasn't raining at that point. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. And every once in a while I do that stuff, you know, on a kayak. The back camera hangs about, it's about 2 feet higher than me and about 3 feet behind me. So
geez.
To get to that thing, you can do it, but if you don't want to tip your kayak, you get off to the side, you stop what you're doing, and you just reset everything. And yeah, there were days with the 9 where I'd have to reset 4 or 5 times. That welcomely enough, that was never the case with the 10. I mean, the 10's been awesome with connectivity with the remote.
It just
and
doesn't
the remote
record audio.
The remote is the key for that hindsight feature.
Oh yeah.
Right. Especially for me, I hook in, I just go down, I hit a button real quick. Most of the time people don't even see that.
Yep.
And it just looks like I've been recording the entire time, and when I haven't, and which is really, really cool. So anyway, most of these guys, yeah, they're like, yep, this is a GoPro killer.
But you noticed it, so I watched David Manning's review like twice. If you noticed, he said the stabilization wasn't quite as good as the GoPro, and the image quality, while better in some lighting scenarios, wasn't as good in others.
Right.
The GoPro still gives like an HDR look, and the DJI didn't, or vice versa. And
right.
They're all so close. It's what is your use case and what do you want out of it? Because like the GoPro stabilization is key for me.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I need that vibration to go away.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh god damn it. Yeah, especially for your front camera.
Yeah, the one that's aimed at me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny, when it fell off my bike last year, it was mounted on. Yeah, it fell off. You may or may not have seen that video.
I don't think I did, man.
If you scroll back, there's a picture of me like doing this, trying to catch it, because it literally fell off while I was recording, and it fell off the fairing of the bike. Luckily, it didn't scratch the fairing, and I tried to catch it as I rode past it on the road. It used to vibrate more with the selfie stick that it's on. That's double ball arm clamped to my handlebars.
That's the Insta360 one, right?
Not only is it that, but it's the designed for bullet time one.
Gotcha.
So it's reinforced.
Gotcha. I've actually got one of those, and I pretty much use it exclusively for snowboarding, which I no longer film because my channel doesn't give a shit about it.
unless you're like a snow bunny that's going down in a bikini, probably not a lot of people watch that.
Right.
And I don't recommend that you put a bikini on for this.
No, I won't be doing that anytime soon. All right. So the one review that I found that is perfect is came from, you familiar with DC Rainmaker?
Yes.
Okay. This guy did it, and we're going to watch that right now.
Using over the past month across all sorts of different things to see how well it works, where it works well, and where it needs a little bit of work still. In this video, I'm going to cover 4.
And just for a few seconds, I'm going to step away for just a minute. We'll let this run for about a minute.
First, I'm going to talk about what's new in the camera and whether it's really all that new. The second is I'm going to go through side-by-side footage with the GoPro Hero 11 Black to show you where it does things better and where it does things worse. Then from there, I'm going to talk about overheating. This camera is going to turn itself off. And then after that, I'm going to talk about whether or not you should buy the Action 4. So I realized while I'm editing this that I didn't make it really clear. This video is not sponsored by anyone. Not sponsored by DJI, not sponsored by GoPro or Insta360 or anyone else. I'm just going to call it like it is. Something I think is missing from most of the videos that you're probably going to see today on this camera, but I'm going to support it with real world data and showing you how these things actually work, both good and bad. So with that, I'll just dive straight into it. And the first thing to know is the price has actually increased. It used to be $329 for the Action 3. It is now $399 for the Action 4. The same exact price as the GoPro Hero 11 Black after they reduced prices this past spring, permanently by the way, and also removed the requirement for the GoPro subscription. So that $399 price is equal across both of them. Now quickly looking at the camera, you'll notice they look almost identical. In fact, basically they are identical externally. You'll see a little bit of like additional writing on the lens and whatnot, but these cameras look and are pretty close to identical across the board, which is not a bad thing. It basically means that all of like your accessories and mounts and even the batteries are compatible between the two of them. That includes things like the battery performance being the same between the two cameras, as well as the weight of the two cameras. Instead, we need to go under the covers to look at the minor changes that make up the Action 4. And the very first one is changing the sensor size from 1/1.7 inches down to 1/1.3 inches. And the goal here, according to DJI, is to simply improve low light performance. Does it do that? Here's an example as I'm riding along, and you can see the sun is now effectively gone. It's at sunset here, but you've got a little bit of glow still left in there. And in this case, it's very clear that the Hero 11 exposes this scene better than the Action 4. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's definitely a better lit scene. It looks prettier, like it is what it is. Now, if we go to a night driving scenario, I've got two different night driving scenarios here. The first one is where there are no highway lights on the highway.
Now, that was kind of interesting back there. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. So
it is. Now, if we go to a night sunset here, but you've got a little...
That right there.
Yeah. All right. This doesn't really bode well for DJI.
I mean, that's what they were touting, was the bigger sensor, better low light visibility, but you can see clearly the Hero 11 exposed better.
Yeah. Yep.
So what in the world did all the other reviewers do with the DJI to make it look better in low light?
I'm guessing they did an awful lot of correction.
I would guess that the GoPro picks up on, because so I've ridden my motorcycle at night, and even recently I took the 910 and the Max out on a night ride on my Harley, and I can tell you that given the 2,000 hours of recording I've done now, that the GoPro exposes for landscapes better than anything else. So what it's doing here is it's exposing for the sky and the background, and it just so happens to expose DC Rainmaker properly.
Sure. Okay.
Because I rode through a parking garage, and if you look at David Manning's review, he rode his bike or something through a parking garage, and it was clear to me, it was a skateboard, I think, and it was clear to me that the DJI did a better job in that scenario than it did in this scenario.
Okay. Let's keep watching.
A little bit of glow still left in there. And in this case, it's very clear that the Hero 11 exposes this scene better than the Action 4. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's definitely a better lit scene. It looks prettier, like it is what it is. Now, if we go to a night driving scenario, I've got two different night driving scenarios here. The first one is where there are no highway lights on the highway. And you can see that in this case, the Action 4 clearly exposes the scene better than the GoPro. There's
absolutely
no question there. Now, is it a massive amount? No, just like it wasn't a massive amount in the previous sunflower riding example. Now, if we turn the highway lights on, because we've gone from France to the Netherlands, where they leave the highway lights on at night, at 3 in the morning, that seems like a good thing to do. Obviously, the Action 4 is a little bit better exposed there than the Hero 11, but highway signs are still readable across both of these. So if I just pause real quick on this highway sign, you can read that just fine. Now, again, generally speaking, Action cameras are not really suited for night usage. Someday we might get that, but today is not that day. Point there being that don't overthink the sensor size. In 2023, that's like just one tiny slice of the entire imaging pipeline. And all these things have to be good in order to have a good end resultant that you look at. And that's the whole reason why I show you comparison footage, to get away from the hype marketing spec, because it just doesn't
right. So
mean
pause
that
it there.
And before we go to the next one, a quick note.
So can you go back to that previous example? I want to point a couple of things out.
The lighted nighttime.
No, the daylight one. I mean, you can go back to the night one, and I can explain a little bit of what's going on there.
Hold on.
Okay, so right here, right?
Uh-huh.
So this is a great example of a low light situation where the GoPro is going to do the best it can, and you can see that the DJI is doing a better job. That's where the sensor is working its magic.
Yeah.
And it just proves my point about the scenery before, because it was in the dusk setting that he was riding in. That was in that one, the Hero 11 was more accurately picking up and exposing the shadows in the flowers and the clouds and everything while not blowing out the sky. Whereas at night, the GoPro 11 is going to start blowing it out. You can see the halos around the street lights. The bigger sensor of the 4 is more closely related to the sensor in my Sony, which would look similar to the DJI, if not better, because I think it's a 1-inch sensor in the Sony. But don't tell me I'm wrong. I don't want to know. But then when you
I think you're right, because actually what you're seeing here, me right here, that is the 1AF, and this has a 1-inch sensor.
Right.
So that thing better have a 1-inch sensor.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
But if you go forward now to the sunlight picture.
No, again, generally speaking, action cameras are not really suited for night usage. Someday we might get that, but today is not that day. Point there being that don't overthink the sensor size. In 2023, that's like just one tiny slice of the entire imaging pipeline. And all these things have to be good in order to have a good end resultant that you look at. And that's the whole reason why I show you comparison.
There. All right. Now, do you see what I'm seeing? At this point, the Hero 11 is just about overexposing the image.
Mm-hmm.
If he'd have knocked the EV comp down a half step or a full step on the Hero 11, it would just about match the DJI.
Right.
And the DJI is underexposing here. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you better detail in the road than you see on the Hero 11.
Right. And what does it say that he's doing here? Yeah, he doesn't really get into how he had stuff set up exactly.
And he's not going to. He's going to do out-of-the-box comparisons if he's smart. And I think he's pretty smart.
And
but
that's one of the things that I really like about him.
You can tell with the azure sky on the left, and then on the right it's more of a light blue.
Right.
That's that overexposure going on.
Right.
So I don't know what the ISO setting is in there, but they're each calibrating themselves. What's happening though is I can almost guarantee you it's because the Action 4 has that white balance sensor built into the O, where it says Action 4 on it. It has a white balance sensor built into that.
Right.
So that's how it's doing its color calibration.
Right.
Because that was one of the things I noticed. It's a little more natural looking on the left, and it's a little brighter on the right, because GoPro has always skewed towards bright, oversaturated, poppy video.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's kind of their thing.
You shoot natural, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Right. And I shoot in flat, and then I color grade it.
Right. Yeah, you're a heck of a lot more. But and here's the difference between the way that you shoot and the way that I shoot. You do longer clips, right? I have videos where I have 150 clips. And if I went through and did that shit with each one, oh my God, man, it would take me a week to get a video out.
So
You know?
you're going to love this. My color grading takes me, on average, I want to say 7 seconds.
You use a lot?
Sort of. So in Resolve, you have a thing called a power grade.
Okay.
Where I have a bin full of them, and I've created different looks there. And all I do is I go in and create my multicam clip in Resolve, and I take it and I set it up the way I'm going to edit with, and then I drop it into a timeline. And the first thing I do is I go into the color page and I drag and drop that power grade onto the multicam clip, and I'm done. If I want to tweak an individual scene because it's too dark or too light or whatever, I can tweak them as needed, but the base is already done.
Right. That's where I run into trouble, especially when you have a fish on, is the kayak is constantly moving.
Right.
And
well, that's one of the benefits of having the GoPro set up the way I do, is the lighting is generally more consistent even if you rotate, because on the bike, I can't pick what direction I'm facing.
Right.
I'm going down the road. I have to go down the road in that direction. So I don't get to choose. I can choose what road and what time of day, but I can't choose, anything else. So I just kind of have to work with what's given to me. And I find if you shoot in the flat profile and even natural to a certain extent, you get more data to play with in the shadows, which is where when you brighten things up, it doesn't look blown out. It doesn't look noisy.
Right. All right. Let's get them rolling here. Oh my God, we're almost an hour. Jeez.
The footage to get away from the hype marketing spec, because it just doesn't mean that much. And before we go to the next one, a quick note: if you are finding this useful and interesting, just whack that like button at the bottom there. It really does help with this video and the channel quite a bit. So the next new feature is actually a piece of new hardware. It's an accessory, something you have to buy extra, but it is this.
Whoops. And absolutely do that, folks. If you are watching this, whether it's live or later, DC Rainmaker's channel will be in the description. He has an awesome channel for audio and video. It's action audio and video, the type of stuff that we do.
New Bluetooth GPS smart remote controller. What it allows you to do is 3 core things. The first is to go ahead and start and stop recording. So you press the button, boom, it starts recording. And you can then stop recording. You can also then switch modes by going and pressing the button once. Then it goes into photo mode. Again, pretty straightforward. And the last item is it'll go ahead and send your GPS coordinates from here into the camera and record that in the file. So it includes GPS.
Now, why the camera doesn't do that on its own is absolutely beyond me.
Well, it follows the same paradigm Insta360 did, where their studio did the stabilization for their X2 camera.
Yeah, but he was talking stabilization or GPS, because he was.
Well, they did stabilization.
Okay, well, he just said that the camera relies on GPS from that remote.
Right. Why do you think the GoPros overheat more than other cameras?
Well,
because they're doing more.
I have that shit turned off. I mean,
but it's still there. Yeah. It's still taking up space, and it's still using a little bit of power, even if it's turned off.
All right, fair enough.
And it's
G-forces, your elevation.
Go ahead.
It still has to go through. So I'm a software developer. That's my job. So it still has to go through. And is this enabled? No. Okay, skip over the code. It's still doing something related to that, even though it's excluding it. So by building it into an external piece of hardware and letting them just stream it, the camera doesn't have to do anything but save the data as part of the metadata for the file.
See, this is why I have you on here, brother.
You know what? That's what I'm here for. I drink coffee and I know things.
Inclination includes a bunch of different data, which is now recorded in the camera itself. It's effectively doing the same thing that the GoPro Hero 11 does by itself internally with all the sensors, including GPS, but in this little external pod there. Now, I've got a separate review where I'll cover this. It won't be very long or complex, but one just kind of caveat to be aware of is that the remote control cannot turn on the Action 4 by itself. So if this camera goes to sleep, which it will in 5 minutes, then you have to go manually turn the camera on. The remote can't do that.
That's another screwed up thing, and that's a no-go for me.
Oh, it turns off after 5 minutes?
Yep.
And you can't change that?
Nope.
See, a GoPro, you can change that.
I know. And yeah, that's a non-starter for me, man. Even without, if hindsight did not exist, that is an absolute non-starter for me.
Wow.
Because, yeah.
So when this stream is over, I'm going to post a link to it in a couple of Discords I'm in, because there's some guys that are chomping at the bit for the Action 4, and that might shut them down because they do what I do, and you got to have the camera on or be able to be remotely turned on at all times.
Right. And yeah, and you can't turn it on from this remote. But yeah, I look, I was going to say this later, but this is a good time for it. If anybody watching this stream, whether right now or later on, is looking to get into this market of camera, wait. Just give it a couple of months. The 12 is going to come out, and I kind of get the sense that it's going to just rock the crap out of this thing.
I can only hope you're right, because I skipped the 11.
I skipped the 11 too. I didn't see the point. I don't need 8x7. Because I don't do TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. I'm strictly YouTube. And actually the 8x7 format actually cuts away from the horizontal.
Right. You'd have to record at a higher resolution so that when you zoom in to get rid of the black bars at the top and bottom, you're not losing resolution.
Yep. Yep. All right, let's get on with this thing, man.
The GoPro remote can do that. Now, the next new thing, if you have the remote control, you can go into the DJI app and you can do these little stickers that you see right there. And so you can add these stickers as overlays. Again, if this was turned on while the camera was recording, you have to have this with it in order to get those stickers. It's not something built in like it is on the GoPro, but nonetheless, that does also reduce some of the battery.
So again, there's another, all this stuff is built into the GoPro.
Yep.
Yeah, the overlays that he's showing there and everything like that. Yeah, that has to be done externally from your phone, where the GoPro will do it by itself. So again, we have another case where DJI is behind.
Battery burn, because that GPS and stuff like that does impact battery and overheating as it does on the GoPro, which we'll talk about later on, so hang tight for that. Next, DJI said they improved the wind reduction technologies, the algorithms behind the scenes. They left the same number of microphones in the camera, so that remains the same, but they've just improved how it handles wind while you're doing something. So let's take a look at that. Here's an audio snippet. Just a quick audio test I just sent right now. I don't know how fast I'm going. I'm guessing about 45, 50 kilometers an hour. Just to see what it sounds like in the wind. Just a quick audio test I just sent right now. I don't know how fast I'm going. I'm guessing about 45, 50 kilometers an hour.
And there's a big ass winner for DJI. They're in. You don't think so?
No, you know what? On my speakers here, they sounded really close, but the voice seemed a little bit clearer on the Hero 11.
Really?
But I'm hard of hearing, so
here, hold on. Let's roll this back just a smidge. Ooh, that's one thing I don't like about this software is it's a pain in the ass to roll back. It would be nice to hit a back button and go back 5 seconds, but yeah, they don't have that yet.
But they've just improved how it handles wind while you're doing something. So let's take a look at that. Here's an audio snippet. Just a quick audio test I just sent right now. I don't know how fast I'm going. I'm guessing about 45, 50 kilometers an hour, just to see what it sounds like in the wind. Just a quick audio test I just sent right now. I don't know how fast I'm going. I'm guessing about 45, 50 kilometers an hour, just to see what it sounds like in the wind.
Okay. Yep, I hear it now. The Action 4 is like 10% better.
Yeah. Yeah. Again,
Voice?
not a huge freaking leap, but one of the things that I noticed is you know, this is a recording. This isn't a stream or anything like that. And the 11 at that speed sounded like a terrible live stream.
It did. Yeah. You know, it's hard. So like I deal with audio a lot, and I've got a special plug-in that I paid for that cleans up my audio. And I mean, it sounds good when it comes out of the helmet cam, but it doesn't sound that good until I run it through Clarity, at which point it just, you heard it earlier, it sounds great.
Yeah.
And but you can actually watch. I have a task manager, and it keeps me apprised of the CPU temperature and everything. And you can see my CPU usage spike when I'm playing back using Clarity. It's doing all this processing to figure out what's wind noise and what's voice noise, and
Right.
it brings that wind noise down.
Sure.
So that's hard. I mean, no matter what else you're doing, I mean, they're processing video, they're doing GPS, they're doing all the 17 other things a GoPro has to do, and
Right.
then the audio.
Right.
Because you know, you and I are not their typical use case. You know that, right?
Oh, I absolutely know that.
Did you know that on average, GoPro clips are no more than 75 seconds long?
I do know that.
That's why
Yep.
they don't. That's why they don't worry about overheating as much.
Right.
It's the edge cases that worry about that, like us.
Right. Right.
I would say this audio snippet is pretty representative across the board of all my testing with this. It's not like massively better or worse. It's just like, yeah, it's in the ballpark. Next up, they've added support for InvisiStick to anything. So in the Action 3, there was InvisiStick support, which basically allows you to take this giant 1.5-meter stick. I mean, this is a really long stick, by the way. And you put the camera on the end of it.
Now this, by the way, I'm a snowboarder, and I this is a gimmick. This is freaking nonsense, and I think his video shows it.
Like this. And what that allows you to do then is to go ahead and remove the stick. So I can do this right now for you. That's photo mode.
There's
so the
caveat.
idea being that you can actually remove the stick in post-production. So I do like this right there, and the stick will go away. In the past, that was only supported in snow sports and I think water sports or something like that. Now it's supported across the board in every sport that you want. You do have to have this giant-ass long 1.5-meter stick, though, which means that it's going to depend on the scenario. Still, it's a cool option to have that mode there if you want it across all things. Next, they changed one of the...
All right, Danny Black showed this in one of his videos, and on snow, it looks absolutely freaking terrible.
So here's the caveats to that, because I watched David Manning's review of it. You can see it still here. You can see you can see kind of the outline of it, and it's using frame interpolation to remove the stick.
Right.
But it processes on their cloud, so it has to upload your footage to their cloud somewhere and then process it, and it only comes out at 1080.
Oh, seriously?
Yep.
So is it even an option in, like, say you're shooting 4K?
You can upload it however you want. From what I remember, you can upload it however you want. It comes back 1080.
No. Oh man, that's a. What's the freaking point? Okay.
The color profiles that you have. So flip it over right here, and then just tap on this. You can see there's the color profile right there in Pro mode, and now there's a new D-Log M 10-bit. Now there was previously 10-bit on the Action 3, but it was desync-like. And DJI says that in this new D-Log M mode, you get a little more dynamic range of the imagery or the data that's recorded to the file to do better post-processing. Next, they've increased the waterproofing of this from 16 meters down to 18 meters, so a 2-meter increase there. And with that, they've also added a new underwater color profile. I presume, though, that's for like pretty blue waters. I live in the Netherlands, and my waters here are just mud and brown and dark and disgusting. So I can't really test that here because it's going to be like mud. But someday I will go somewhere with nice, pretty waters, and I'll be able to test that. But today is not that day. And then we got two quick geeky ones before we get into the good stuff of the comparison footage
So
and all
pause it
that.
real
Number
quick.
one is they've gone ahead.
So going back to the D-Log that they have with the 10-bit, that's just color depth. So that allows them to get up to, I want to say, 1 billion or 16 billion colors from 1.2 million or something.
Right.
It's just a jump. So that's where they're getting the dynamic range, is that big jump from 8 to 10-bit. What that does give you is better low light clarity. So you can pull more data out of the shadows.
And that's kind of what he was alluding to early, is the sensor size is one aspect.
Right.
But that's also another aspect right there. It will also create absolutely freaking monstrous files, but that's okay.
And they've added a new sharpness option. So if you flip it over the back here and you go down, you'll see image adjustment. And then there's two defaults. There's default and portrait, but you can go to custom now and you can change the image sharpness and noise reduction here. So you can see there's a sliding scale right there on the side. I can go down to -2, up to +2, leave it at 0, and then the noise reduction as well. It's a custom option. The other thing they've done is they've added all of the gyro data to the files. So again, kind of matching what GoPro does, where they add all that accelerometer and gyro data so that third-party apps can go ahead and take that data and compensate for it and do post-processing of stabilization after the fact. That's something that's primarily of interest to quad or FPV flyers, where you want to maybe tweak that processing and stabilization afterwards. So now that's in the file if you want it. So let's instead talk about comparison footage, because there's a lot of footage that I've shot over the last month. I've shot hundreds of videos, but in particular, I've got like 17 core video sets that are perfectly the same across all things, and those are what I want to compare. I'm going to add a bunch of those to a Dropbox share down below here this evening, so stay tuned for that. I got a lot of footage to upload, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So the very first thing I want to talk about is stabilization and whether or not one camera is better than the other. So look at this little tidbit here, a couple tidbits while I'm mountain biking. Overall, both cameras do well. But it's very clear, absolutely clear, that GoPro is doing a better job of stabilization than the Action 4. You just see how smooth it looked. And again, across a wide variety of scenarios, not just mountain biking, but everything I've done, I've seen that the stabilization is better on the GoPro, the Hero 11. Now, for example, you can see this here. Remember that sunflower clip from earlier on? Look at the stabilization now this time as opposed to the light. And here you'll see the GoPro looks like it's on a gimbal. Like, it is unbelievably smooth. It's just like almost like an aircraft there right next to me. It's really, really smooth. And the Action 4 is not bad. It's just not quite as good. And this mirrors what we saw in the Action 3. That stabilization is good, but it's not as good as the GoPro. And the reason for that is probably pretty simple. A GoPro has more resolution to work with. If you imagine a giant big block like this as your sensor, a GoPro has 5.3K, or actually even more than that anyway, it's more than that.
Well, I'm not sure about this argument. And if you're going 4K to 4K, that would be a better argument.
Yeah, but the point he's making, so he was comparing 4K to 4K shots, okay? But the sensor in the Hero 11 is picking up more than 4K, and it's what he's saying here is it's picking up at a max. It'll show you 5.3K, but it's picking up a bigger window than that. So anytime a camera picks up more than what it's showing, okay? So in this image, you can see the full mountain in the Hero, and you can see the Action 4 is cropped in. So what's happening is the DJI has to zoom in a little bit further to stabilize the footage, because it's moving around. If you see my hand right now, it's moving it around like this, and it can only move so far as it has an image. Once it runs out, it has to stop.
Right.
That's how it stabilizes.
Yep. Yeah, and if you get beyond those specs, it doesn't.
It can't rotate or fix it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I fully understand how it works. And maybe the 11 is using a little bit of that taller sensor to get a little bit better. But actually, you know what? you don't even have to go there to defend that, because GoPro stabilization has always been better.
I agree.
All right, let's
solution to
keep
work
going.
with. If you imagine a giant big block like this as your sensor, GoPro has 5.3K, or actually even more than that if you, anyway, more than that. So in the case of the Action 4, it's got 4K, so it's a smaller little image to work with. The way electronic stabilization works is it basically takes this bigger image sensor and crops into it and moves around like this. And so the more image resolution that you have, the more ability you have to play with that. And this is true if you go into some of the specialty modes. So on the Action 4, there's a mode called horizon balancing. And the idea there is that you keep the horizon perfectly flat. GoPro has the same concept. It's called horizon lock. Here's an example where I put 2 cameras on the hood of the car and went down this twisty mountain road. Now, the mountain road is obviously pretty darn flat, but it's a good example as I go around the curves. And you can see that the Action 4 does some wonky stuff here. I promise you my car is not on a crazy angle, because the RV that you just saw there would have tilted over at that point. It's just not handling this super well, versus the GoPro. It is very, very stable across the board and very steady on that horizon lock.
See, and that's interesting. That's something that nobody else said.
No, they didn't. Nobody else even mentioned that mode.
Nope. Not even. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I would glom onto.
Yep.
Now, it's not all bad news for the Action 4. There are some things that it does better. So, for example, in their field of view, they have a wider field of view, so in other words, how wide the camera lens can see, in linear mode. Linear mode is what they call dewarp, what the rest of the world calls normal mode, or basically non-fisheye mode.
Hold on. Let me back that up just a smidge, if I can.
Tilted over at that point. It's just not handling this super well, versus the GoPro. It is very, very stable across the board and very steady on that horizon lock. Now, it's not all bad news for the Action 4. There are some things that it does better. So, for example, in their field of view, they have a...
All right. Take a look at that shot.
Yep.
Which camera is handling this better?
I'm going to go with the Action 4.
Really?
1 second. It's hard, right? Because obviously the Hero 11 is zoomed in a little further, or it appears to be zoomed in.
Have a look at the shadows.
Well, the shadows are darker on the Action 4.
Yes.
It's gone, so it's got more contrast. But it's the whole picture is zoomed in further on the 11. You can see that at the bottom of the 11, there's 2 rocks with 2 little rocks in between them, and they're further up in the image. So it's not, so they're handling it differently. Okay.
Yes.
The one is the Action 4 is doing more of the flattening, and they're keeping more of the image in there, versus the Hero 11. That's a weird one. Yeah, that's an odd one. You've got more of an HDR type image out of the Action 4 in this scenario. Yeah, most definitely. Because if you look, the image, to me, the image looks better on the Hero 11 for post-processing. Because I can go in, add a touch more contrast without losing so much in the shadows like the Action 4 did. It almost looks better to me.
So,
but that green, like the bridge, that green looks better in the Action 4, and that's part of the HDR kind of look. Man, that's a tough one. That's kind of personal preference.
Right. Yeah. Yep. There we go.
Wider field of view, so in other words, how wide the camera lens can see, in linear mode. Linear mode is what they call dewarp, what the rest of the world calls normal mode, or basically non-fisheye mode. So comparing these two side by side, you see that a little bit wider field of view on the Action.
Okay, did you see that?
Yeah.
When it panned, the 4 did way more of zoomy, stretchy arm look, as I call it.
Yeah,
the Hero 11 did.
Yeah, the warping. Right.
Yeah, the Hero 11 is definitely doing a better job of de-warping the image.
And here's the beauty of it. This is in de-warp mode.
Yeah.
This is the best they can do.
It's not even
one of the things that I saw from a lot of the videos that came out, Potato Jet, you know, all those folks, is they were using, and Danny Black, in fact, used kind of a still against buildings and said, look how the GoPro is warped. And it's like, yeah, my first impression was move the camera and see how that goes. And you and I both noticed that right there.
So you know what's hilarious is back when the Max Lens mod came out, right? And we all know it sticks out quite a bit from the camera.
Oh, God.
If you go back in my catalog to when the Max Lens mod came out and look at the few videos I did on and around it, if you compare the Max Lens mod to Super View on the GoPro Hero 9 and 10, the 9 and 10 Super View looks like the Action 4 with that warped. It looks great in the center of the image,
right,
but around the edges, it starts to get really warped. That was the same thing Super View did. And the Max Lens mod doesn't do that nearly as bad. It gives you the same field of view, but it doesn't give you the stretchy arm feel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's kind of funny is I'm kind of calling de-warp a freaking gimmick because it doesn't work when the camera is actually in motion. If the camera is panning, we just saw that right there.
Yeah.
Pull that back a few seconds.
You see that little bit
look at that
field of view on the Action 4
insane.
linear mode or a non-fisheye.
Oh, that's bonkers.
Likewise, you also are probably noticing right now that the GoPro looks a little bit overexposed. And these were set for the default, zero compensation levels. And it's funny. I went to a GoPro media event a couple months ago, and they said like the number 2 things you should do when you turn the camera on is to 1, reduce the exposure compensation by half a stop, and to reduce the sharpness.
This is funny. Because I have mine reduced at half a stop.
So do I.
I've actually been thinking about going a full stop.
Oh, really? No, I haven't gone that far.
Well, on the rivers, just because there's so much weird backlight and everything that happens.
Well, sure, you're getting a lot of reflections too.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's absolutely freaking insane. But that's, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I hadn't gone this far into this video, but yep, he's pretty much saying everything that I'd say.
I just like how every time I stop you and I say something, about 30 seconds later, he says the same thing.
Yeah, right.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. We're all on the same page here.
To which I'm like, just do that for me then. If that's like your big tip, that's like the thing that you are supposed to do every single time you turn the camera on, then just do that for me. And you can see the effects of that where the DJI image does not look as overexposed.
That's kind of a dumb argument right there because you set it once, you set a preset and you're done with it and that's it.
Yeah, all right. I give you that. I mean, I rarely change my settings, so.
Yeah, no. I mean the half stop thing. If GoPro said, yeah, just set it back half a stop. That is what he said, right?
Yeah.
That's like your big tip. That's like the thing that you are supposed to do every single time you turn the camera on. Then just do that for me. It looks a little bit overexposed. And these were set for the default, zero compensation levels. And it's funny, I went to a GoPro media event a couple months ago, and they said, like, the number 2 things you should do when you turn your camera on is to, 1, reduce the exposure compensation by half a stop, and to reduce the sharpness. To which I'm like,
okay, which is exactly what I do. I've got it at 0.5 or negative 0.5, and I've got the sharpness at whatever the middle ground is, whatever
medium.
They call it.
They call it medium. I have mine set to high.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You might want to reduce that, man.
I thought about it, and it just makes things blurry, and then I have to add the sharpness back in post, and I haven't figured out if I like it better or not that way.
Huh. Okay.
Just do that for me then. If that's like your big tip, that's like the thing that you are supposed to do every single time you turn the camera on, then just do that for me.
And he's got a good point there. They have full control of the firmware.
Yeah, they could do it, but you have to think of GoPro's default customer. They want to turn the camera on, press record, and get the best quality footage.
And have a gorgeous video with awesome freaking color and awesome sharpness and everything.
That's why they do what they do. Those tips are for the prosumers and the pros.
Right.
And you can see the effects of that where the DJI image does not look as overexposed. Now, as I showed you earlier in lower light footage, though, the Action 4 is underexposed and the GoPro is spot on there. So it is what it is. And then again, another quick snippet here on just being a little bit wider as I descend down right now. You can see compare Ultra View compared to the Super View on the GoPro. And again, I could do Hyper View, but that makes it way more warped looking. It does get that extra width, but just not what I want. In this picture, you can probably not tell the difference at all unless you like pause for a second and look at something and go, oh yeah, it's a tiny bit wider on the edges there. Stabilization on both cameras was perfectly fine on this descent too. And then here's one final example in lower light conditions. These are not side-by-side shots because I was afraid that the suction cup in the rain and the wind would fall off the car. So I did them back to back, but it's the same basically road and everything's the same otherwise. So it's pretty easy to compare these two. And you can see that, clarity-wise, they both look about the same. No real major differences here in this particular scenario. So let's talk about overheating. This is something that a lot of people talk about. And with the
What was that?
Except if you look at that GoPro footage in the rain, the hydrophobic or hyperphobic, whatever, the lens cover gives you
hydrophobic.
Hydrophobic. Yeah, the lens coating gives a better image on the Hero 11.
Yeah, it's doing better.
You can see that, clarity-wise, they both look about the same. No real major differences here in this particular scenario. So let's talk about overheating. This is something that a lot of people talk about. And with the Action 3 last year, there we go, 3 last year, DJI made some huge gains in the overheating realm, or lack of overheating. However, one of the things that most people overlook when they make these YouTube videos on overheating is that if you're out actually doing something outside, like if you have any airflow in all of these cameras, like if you even just foof these cameras, they will not overheat at all in any mode that you give it to them. And that is definitely true. In all of my real world usage of these cameras, they have never overheated while I'm...
And that's absolutely true for me too. It could be 90 degrees out, and if there's a 10-mile-an-hour wind at 4K 30, they will not overheat the cameras.
I will tell you that I took out the 8, 9, and 10 last summer, I think it was, and it was 100 degrees out, and I had all 3 cameras. One was on my helmet, one was on my handlebars, and the third one was the Hero 8 mounted on the front fork of my neighbor lady's motorcycle. And we rode for 3 hours. We stopped just long enough to drink some water and swap batteries like twice, and none of them overheated at all.
Right.
And they were in the sun baking at over 100 degrees.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If they have wind venting, they work fine. They all work fine. Not an issue.
And then I took my Hero 10 here and I set it to 4K 120 or whatever the highest resolution is, and I mounted it on the back of my trailer and recorded me washing my bike at 120 frames a second. It overheated in less than like 10 minutes.
Was it? but the camera wasn't moving.
No, not at all. It had zero airflow.
Right.
In fact,
Right.
it was I forget if it was the 9 or 10 now.
That's it, man.
But it cooked the battery so bad that the battery swelled up.
No shit.
And then I tried to pull the battery out of the camera, and the battery cap came off with a little handle on it. So it was the camera battery was stuck in there.
Oh, jeez. God.
Oh yeah.
You got it out.
I put it in the fridge for like 10 minutes, and it shrank down enough that I could get the battery back out.
Oh my
But that
goodness.
battery was unusable. GoPro
Right.
sent me 5 new batteries like 2 weeks later.
Oh no. Nice.
Moving anywhere at all. The challenge is if you're in a static environment where there's no wind at all. So for example, inside of a hot car, that's a no wind environment. Or if you're trying to film a baseball game or a football game or whatever it may be, and there's no wind around, they will overheat in the sun. And so here I did a test of this back a few weeks ago.
That's funny. That's what we were just talking about.
Yep.
When it was a 92 or something like that degree day out. And in this case, the GoPro overheated first. You can see the exact time on the screen there, followed closely by the Action 4. And then 2+ hours later, the Insta360 Go 3 decided to overheat too. Now you may be like, whoa, how did it do that? And the thing is, it cheated basically. Number one, these cameras were in 4K mode versus the Insta360 only goes up to...
So wait a second. The 4 does overheat.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah, well, they claim that it doesn't.
Yeah, everybody else says it doesn't overheat.
That's a little problematic right there. And I'll tell you what, I trust this guy over any other one because he does not dick around with
After watching this video, I'll be surprised if he gets another DJI camera for free.
Oh, he didn't. He said that at the beginning.
How did he get it early?
He didn't. Yeah.
He's been using it for a month.
Right, but he refused the. There's two aspects of it.
He said it wasn't sponsored, but he got it for free. He had to have gotten it before street date.
Well, doesn't mean he got it for free. The free thing comes with the NDA that you have to do. But DC Rainmaker is a lot bigger than any other of these guys, so they kind of had to send it to him.
Okay, I'll give you that. He's on somebody's no-fly list now.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's not sponsored. He's on everybody's no-fly list. He's basically just like you and I. He hates GoPro. He hates DJI. He hates Insta.
I love
none
GoPro.
of them.
I love GoPro. I hate the crap that they put out sometimes, but once you get used to it, you can't be beat for image quality.
Oh, there's no question about that, and just the ease, and again, specifically for me, the hindsight feature that nobody has that other than the GoPro.
Give me another remote that runs more than one camera. Look at the DJI specs.
They don't?
I think.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I'll pull it up in another window.
That's freaking weak, man. Oh my God. Why? That's kind of the whole point of the thing.
2.7K, so that made it pretty easy. And then two, the Insta360 case that you see there isn't waterproof. It's got a bunch of holes in it, like literally holes in it. And as a result of that, it's got more air ventilation. So it's a little bit easier for that camera to not overheat.
Yeah, but that's
compared to...
That's not really the camera at work there. That whole thing is more of a battery and whatever.
One of these cameras here. I will do more overheating tests in the fall because by then we should have a probably a new GoPro, and it makes more sense to do that then. All the stuff we already know from the Action 3 is applicable to the Action 4 in terms of static overheating type scenario. Okay, so where do we stand when comparing the like-priced $399 Action 4 to the $399 Hero 11 Black? And that's a bit tricky. So last year when the Action 3 came out at $329, I noted that it seemed to be priced appropriately. It was clearly an inferior camera to the GoPro Hero 11 Black that came out on the exact same day. And this time we've now increased the price of the Action 4, but haven't really seen major improvements. Almost all those improvements I just listed are very minor spec change type stuff. The biggest one is...
All right, let's you and I read this real quick.
Yep, we've already gone through all that.
Yep. All right.
It's all minor things.
It is.
This
is a. Oh my God. Even if you are, even if you got one of these cameras and decided, oh yeah, this is better than the 11. It doesn't make much of a case, especially when you consider that the 12 is about a month and a half away and has a 1-inch sensor.
So what have you heard about the upcoming Hero 12?
Not a whole lot other than that. They made it a point to leak that spec the day that the 4 was put out. And that kind of, again, got to go back to don't make any buying decisions until that 12 comes out. I can see how this can work for some people. It doesn't work for me. Does it work for you?
No. There's too many gotchas. There's too many hidden things that nobody's talked about that turn me off. Like the little snippets they give you are enough to say no thanks. I'll stick with what I've got.
Right.
And I can't even find. Oh, there's the remote. So I finally found the remote. It took me 5 minutes to find the remote on their website.
Yeah, for $79, and it really doesn't do anything other than turn the camera on and off. You can change modes, but fuck you if it's been longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's something I didn't know, and that really is. That's a no-go for me.
Yeah, it's freaking pointless.
I rode on that motorcycle trip for 9 hours a day. Do you know how many batteries I would have to go through to use the Action 4? It would be a lot. I can tell you that on each of those 4 days, I went through 2 sets of batteries for my 9 and 10. I literally only had to plug the cameras in at night and plug my dual battery charger in at night, wait for them to charge up, and I was done. I didn't have to worry about swapping batteries because I only went through 2 each during the day. And
now,
even their spec sheet for the remote doesn't say how many cameras. It just says compatible with the Action 4.
It also doesn't say how long the remote lasts.
Yeah, but you know what? It's going to be a forever and a day.
No. I mean, if there's a perfectly reasonable expectation that it might just go 3 or 4 hours.
That would be horrendous.
Yeah.
I don't have my remote handy to show to the screen. Ooh, there's my invisible remote. But I charge it about once every 6 months.
Yeah.
You see how many videos I put out.
Yeah, same thing for me. And I use mine on hindsight, which the thing is active the entire freaking time. And typically I'll lose 10% per day out there, if I'm out there for 6 to 8 hours
On your back? Oh, wow, man!
on the remote.
I charged it up after like 6 months. It was still at 43%, and I recorded for like 500 or 600 hours.
Yeah, but again, I'm doing it different purpose.
Yeah.
When it's in hindsight, it does suck up battery power because it has to keep track. It has to stay connected to those things.
Wow. Even
but
still,
yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
excellent battery life.
There's been a couple of times where I've been like, oh crap, is this thing gonna get through the day? Where it's at like 30% or something like that, and I finish out the day and it's at 22%.
Man, I think if they brought out the Action 4 when GoPro brought out the 10, they'd be more of a comparison. I think the Action 4 would take the lead there.
Oh, the Action 4, the Action 4 would absolutely stomp the shit out of the 10. But
I don't think it covers even the 11.
It definitely doesn't cover the 11.
Because the 11 has 10-bit mode. The 11 already has the gyro data put in. Yep. The 11 already has sharpness options. It doesn't have noise. Okay, so it doesn't have noise reduction. But it has a better remote. It has the overlays you can put in there. I found an app years ago to add the overlays to any kind of action camera footage. I actually added it to my drone footage. So there's that. GoPros are good to, I want to say they're only good to 11 meters. But really, if you're diving down that far anyway.
Well, I don't know, man. I got some really good. Oh, you mean the diving? Yeah.
All
right, let's wrap this sucker up
the
here.
remote, which you now have to pay extra for. So you got to pay for the camera plus the remote to get the GPS functionality. Versus GoPro has that built in. Obviously, GoPro has a remote as well that you can buy. You have to pay extra for that.
That is freaking stupid that you have to buy the remote to get GPS functionality.
It's them trying to avoid the overheating.
And the funny thing is that as he showed, they're not getting away with it. They're only buying about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that isn't like a super compelling argument there. And the rest of those things are very minor, like spec formatting stuff that only matter to a handful of people. And the people that stuff matters to are the people that want better image quality, better resolution, better stabilization. And for all of those categories, the GoPro clearly wins. I mean, you can see that in the footage. Here's the thing. I think...
And this is the only guy saying that.
Yeah.
And also happens to be the biggest.
To me, the Action 4 is a camera that probably shouldn't exist yet. I guess my challenge is I think the Action 4 was pushed out the door by accountants. They wanted to get to an annual release cycle like GoPro has. As true as Apple releases an iPhone every September, GoPro releases new action cameras in September as well. We're only 45 days or so away from that happening with the Hero 12. This is the Hero 11. So why would you release a subpar camera at the same price just 45 days before? There are virtually no meaningful upgrades in this camera, and now that just seems like it's rushed out the door. It will.
That's freaking huge.
That hurts,
doesn't it?
Oh yeah, you're catching the back to school
your
crowd.
Camera doesn't even beat the last version, and GoPro's about to whoop your ass again.
Ouch.
Hey, look, DJI. Obviously, they've got GoPro on the drone market because that freaking thing was terrible.
You know what? I've never seen one in the field.
I actually went through that whole thing.
Oh, see, I have a Spark too, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I bought it used off a subscriber years ago.
Yeah, that GoPro drone was sick, terribly awful.
And you know what? Anybody watching this, they're going to think that we're fanboys of GoPro, but really we're just realists.
We're not. Yeah, we're not.
I will go on.
And this is part of why I wanted you on for this, John, was we both, while our niches are a little bit different, they're basically the same. And you and I just want the best that we can do for our channels for the least amount of money. And yeah, I don't know. This so far, and this is the only review that I've seen that has actually seriously smacked that thing down.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I know a bunch of people that are Insta360 fanboys or they're DJI fanboys, and they even think Insta360 stabilization is better than GoPro, but they're using a 360 cam.
Well, yeah, that's
different ball of wax.
Yeah, it's all software and it's all and I was hoping tonight to have my normal co-host Mark. He couldn't make it tonight. He uses Insta for one of his cameras on a kayak, and yeah, man, I just don't like the look of that footage. I don't. It looks like bullshit.
So here's a beautiful thing about Insta cameras. Not only did they have the stabilization built into the software for the longest time, they finally built it into the camera, but they still have a gap between the recording files. So you can record for 8 minutes and then it skips like 30 seconds or something, or 10 seconds, whatever it is. Anything longer than a frame is too long, in my opinion. And one of the guys I know that uses an Insta360 camera exclusively as his motovlogging camera has to use a voice recorder so that he can get the voice to go with the video.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
It has that gap. Because it has the gap. For me, using a half helmet, if I was to use that same camera, I would have to at least run 2 cameras like I do now, and then figure out where the gap is and fix that in editing, as opposed to just lining them all up like I do, and my voice is lined up for the entire 38-minute clip or whatever.
Right. And your audio comes from the media mod on the side of your helmet, right?
Comes from this media mod on the side of my helmet, and then I sync it up to this. And I've actually figured out how to sync it up in most circumstances with the other cameras on the bike, even if they're not picking up my voice. I do it on audio and video. So when you see me doing 360, it's synced up. All the cameras are all synced up within a frame or 2 of each other.
Right. And you just you delete the other audio tracks?
Yeah. So so when you do a multicam clip in Resolve, you choose the audio track you want, and it's always my Hero 10, and then the other ones are there. And I've had to use it in many circumstances, not a lot, but many, where for some reason, like I'm holding my helmet in front of me and the audio is not great coming out of this microphone on the Hero 10. I was just editing last night in one, and I used the Hero 9 audio because it's right out here in front of me.
So you just blend into it. Nice.
Yep. Yeah. I go for whatever sounds the best at the time. I've even used my phone audio. I had 3 cameras recording my armored. Oh, there he's doing it his thing again. I did 3 cameras when I recorded my armored shirt video. I had a lapel mic hooked to like a wireless mic that was going to this camera, and then I had another mic going to this camera, and I had my phone. And the phone with the wind reduction plug-in actually created the best audio for 99% of the video. Because I had the jacket. It was muffling my voice underneath the jacket. So I was like, well, screw that. Can't use that except for when I face away from the camera. So I'm behind, I'm facing away from it. And then I used the lapel mic for like 5 seconds, and that was it. And nobody ever noticed.
Nice.
Most people watch a YouTube video. They don't understand the work that a lot of people put into to make the best audio and video quality they can.
They don't. They have no freaking idea, man.
They don't see a Mr. Beast and they don't see a cat, so they click off.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people stay, but a lot of people don't understand like you said, the work that goes behind it. It's audio is man, that's my big freaking thing. All right, let's wrap this up.
It would have been, in my opinion, way better to go ahead and hold the Action 4 until next spring sometime, increase the resolution, increase some of the features there, some of the ancillary features that GoPro does better, like, the starlight mode and stuff like that, those sorts of things, and have a much more competitive offering for the spring and summer than to push it out the door at the last minute to try to hit a new annual release cycle. But that's just my 2 cents. This is not a bad camera, to be clear. It's just not a very competitive camera with the Hero 11 and probably not with the Hero 12 this fall either. With that, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for plenty more sports technology goodness. Have a good one. So this is the new DJI Action 4, and I'm using over the past month.
All right, so there we go.
Yep, look at that.
I agree with the man. Let's see if I can get an actual decent mode here. Throw that out. What the hell? The hell is this? Why is it here? No connection. Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, man. Jeez.
A lot of information.
It's a lot of information, and I imagine around, what does it normally drop around September 15th or so?
Yeah, 10th or 15th, I think we'll see a new camera from GoPro.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of sites that have said 1-inch sensor confirmed.
That'll be huge.
That's literally huge because I did the math on this earlier, and it's a pain in the ass to figure out the math on 1 inch compared to 1 by 1.3, but it's basically double.
Oh yeah, I've never done the math on it, and I never understood how it works. Just the closer you get to 1, the better the image quality gets.
Yeah, I mean, if GoPro 12 actually has a 1-inch sensor, that alone stomps this thing out of the water. Yeah,
it'll be in this league. Yep. I don't know what sensor's in this one, but if it's close to this, I have been in love with this Sony camera since I bought it.
That's the EV.
It's the ZV-1.
ZV-1. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
EV1,
that's a 1-inch sensor right there.
The EV10 has replaceable lenses. This one has the built-in lens.
Right.
So it only gives you what's built in, but it fits into my pocket, which is what I love about it.
Yeah.
And if they can do something similar to that and get the image quality, my God, it'll be a day one purchase for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if it's $400, has a 1-inch sensor, and the preview stuff that comes out on embargo day doesn't absolutely pan it, I'll probably buy one.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's just bonkers. I absolutely would love to buy a new camera. I love new gear, but I haven't seen a compelling reason. So if they give me a couple of compelling reasons, I'm on board with it. And as long as it works with the existing remote, right?
Well, I mean, by all indications, it looks like whatever, and I think it seems like it was intentionally leaked on DJI Day.
Oh, absolutely. Every
1-inch
company does that.
sensor and the exact same form factor.
Oh, that's one thing that I really hated when they went from the 7.8 to the 9.
Oh my god,
batteries,
dude! When they went, dude, they went from the, oh my god, they went from the 4 to the 5 and 6, changed their form factor again.
Yeah.
For the 7 and 8, and then changed their form factor again for the. That's the one thing that absolutely pisses me off about GoPro, man.
Like, it's so
stop
funny.
That.
When I was packing for my VAM trip, I counted up all of my 9 and 10 batteries, and I decided that I was only taking those 2 cameras with me, and I brought the 360 as a backup just in case I wanted to get something with it, and I didn't. But I brought like 14 batteries. I had enough to record from sunup to sundown every day on both cameras just because. And I never, all I used was the Enduro batteries. They are just head and shoulders above anything else they put out.
Oh, absolutely.
The fact that both cameras use the same batteries is just so key, because if one camera dies, you can switch to another and you've got batteries for days.
Right.
And
that's another thing that maybe tiny little clip here. The Enduro batteries keep the cameras cooler.
That is warm.
That is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
I overheated a couple of years ago in 25 degrees shooting at 4K.
Wow.
And the second I threw an Enduro in there, problem gone.
Yep.
And it wasn't that they were freezing. I had the thing actively running for about 15-20 minutes. And the freaking camera gave me an overheat message in about 20 degrees. It's like, are you kidding me?
So it was,
and I don't remember which one that was.
It was drawing too much juice from the battery.
Likely.
So the reason they went to a bigger battery for the 9 was because they were overheating on the 7 and 8 batteries. They started the overheating. So they went to the bigger battery on the 9. And when they added all the features for the 9 and 10, they were overheating those. So they came out with the Enduro battery. And the lithium ion apparently keeps it cooler than the NIM or whatever they had before that.
Sure. And the 9 was absolutely awful for a lot of reasons, but part of it was that they introduced, when did they introduce the GP1? That was the 8 or the 9?
I want to say that was the 8.
The processor. Yeah, I think it was the 8. So they did that through the 8 and the 9. The 10 has a GP2.
Right.
The 11 has a GP2
with a bigger sensor.
And the 11, and I'm curious as to whether or not there's a. That's the big question. Is there a GP3 for the GoPro 12?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I'll be happy to be wrong, but I think that the GP2 came out with the 10, and then they added the bigger sensor for the 11.
Yeah, that's what I have.
I think they're doing like the car manufacturers. They iterate the fascias, then they iterate the engines, then they iterate the frame, and then they repeat as necessary.
That's crazy, man. I wish that one of these companies would have the balls to actually make a $600 camera that just, because we all know that they all have the technology, they can do this easily and just, kind of do what GoPro used to do. Throw out not even, you don't have to do it at 3 stages, just a mid end and a high end.
Yeah. So I see it as a miniaturization problem. There's literally only so much space in here. And when you open these bad boys up, you have room for a battery. And there's like no other room, right? I mean, you open this up and it's flat in there. There's a hole.
Yep.
And it's just the opening for the battery.
Right.
The fact that they get all the video processing and the GPS and the stabilization and a touchscreen rear and the front screen. And there was some talk that DC Rainmaker didn't really talk about it, but the front screen on the Action 4 is a touchscreen. He used it, but he didn't mention it.
Right.
So the fact that they get the touchscreen, at least on the back, and then the front screen is what it is. All that stuff. And mind you, the battery takes up this much room. So 2/3? That's about 2/3.
God, not even. I mean, you consider the thickness and everything, it's probably 1/5 of the entire real estate.
But it's a large amount for just the battery. And the fact that they get everything else to just work in here, it still boggles my mind. And the big one is the stabilization, of course.
Right.
But everything else that they're doing, it's wild that they can get so much out of something so small. So
it really